Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Daily Dose. I'm Pastor Hans here at Calvary, and so glad to be with you today. Hey, the question for today is this: does God forgive everything? Everything. You know, true for you, true for me. There's some things in my life that I am not proud of. So the question is, does God forgive everything? And to get at that question today, here's what I want to do. I want to look at what Jesus says to us about forgiveness. Jesus is talking to a guy named Peter, and Peter has a question for Jesus about forgiveness. In Matthew chapter 18, we hear these words. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, "Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? How many times do I have to forgive him? Up to 7 times, he says. Jesus answered him, I tell you, not 7 times, but 70 times 7 times. This is what Jesus has to say about forgiveness. Here's what's interesting about that story. Peter says 7 times. And in that ancient world, people would have went, whoa, 7 times? Forgiving your neighbor 7 times? You see, what was taught in the ancient church by the rabbis is that no one ever needed to forgive anyone more than 3 times. More than that was unnecessary. They took examples from the Old Testament, like the book of Amos, where God forgave God's enemies 3 times. Well, Peter, of course, doubles that, thinking this is excessive, this is outlandish. Surely Jesus will look at me and go, oh, Peter, you are a good and faithful servant. But Jesus stuns them all. He says, no. 70 times 7 times. That's how many times I want you to forgive your brother. What Jesus seems to be doing is talking to people like you and me, if we're honest. You know, most of us have a limited sort of understanding of forgiveness. We have this limited thinking that kind of binds us to the law. It limits our understanding of God's grace. In the effort to be fair, right, we limit our forgiveness. It's a little different, to say the least, than Jesus's unlimited terms, right? His unlimited terms of grace, 490 times. It seems that Jesus is saying the number of times you should forgive your brother, it's limitless. It's beyond counting. In fact, well, that's where Jesus came in the end, to offer a different understanding of God's love and God's grace. He came to seek and save those, well, not those that seem to have it all together, but those whose lives are filled with stains, with mistakes, with all kinds of poor decisions. You're likely, whether you've been around church or not, heard the story of that wee little man by the name of Zacchaeus. In the story of Zacchaeus, Matthew chapter 19, we hear why Jesus came. You see, the story isn't so much a story about Zacchaeus and Zacchaeus getting his act together, if you will. Rather, it's about Jesus choosing, of all people, those who are in need of forgiveness. The story goes like this. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and he was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but being a short man, he could not because of the crowd. So he ran ahead. He climbed up in that sycamore tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, you come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and they began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner, someone who is beyond forgiveness. But Zacchaeus, he stood up and said to the Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. And then listen to what Jesus said. Jesus said, today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. Listen to this. For the Son of Man came to seek and save who? He came to seek and save what is lost. Those whose lives, again, are filled with stains, mistakes, poor decisions. You see, the question is, does God forgive everything? And if He's willing to say to us, our forgiveness for those around us, it should be unlimited, I can only imagine the kind of forgiveness that God offers, because we have this God who came to earth to seek and save not those who have perfect, polished lives, but people like you and me, people in need of forgiveness. And for that, we give thanks. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in today. If you're watching, you happen to be watching on Facebook, we'd love for you to like this post. Maybe you'd share it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the little bell so you get notifications of future Daily Dose episodes that go online. And last but not least, if you're watching on cable access, would you tell a friend? Have a good one.